Let's talk now about trying to boost those vaccination rates. Now, vaccination rates have been dropping, but the White House, is hoping that using barbers and hairstylists in the Black community might fix those numbers. We're joined now by Dr. Reed Tuckson, co-founder of the Black Coalition Against COVID. Doctor, great to have you here with us. So I want to start with some context setting. Give us the lay of the land right now. We know that the pandemic disproportionately impacted the Black community, but a lot of efforts have been made to increase testing and also to increase vaccinations in Black and Brown communities. Where do we stand right now in terms of vaccination rates for minorities?
It's a story of good news and bad news. The good news is that we have been very successful at getting a significantly large number of the African American community to overcome the traditional distrust that so many have with our social institutions and have them actually becoming vaccinated. The bad news is we still have a ways to go. And so that's what we're trying to do now by using every asset at our development and at our disposal. And particularly as we look at the life of the Black community, we know that it is characterized by two important factors. Number one, our relationship to our faith and our relationship to our barbershops and our beauty salons. We spend a lot of time in beauty parlors and salons, not just to get our hair done, but because they're cultural institutions in our community. It's where we transmit information. It's where we share our values. It's where we argue about who was the greatest basketball player of all time. It's the place where we gather. And so that, along with using our ministers, are going to be two very important ways that we have the conversation with people to help them have the correct information that overcomes the misinformation that's being permeating through our community and let people make personally appropriate choices and decisions based on facts.
Dr. Tuckson, it's Brian Chung here. I want to ask about just where you see the progress so far. We've been hearing a lot of the concern about whether or not the Black community could be getting vaccinated at the rates that the larger American community is getting vaccinated. Now, we're obviously many months into this vaccination campaign nationally. Are you satisfied with the progress, or do you feel like now that we're getting this point of diminishing returns where every new person getting vaccinated is that much more of an effort compared to the last one in terms of getting closer and closer to that 70% line that the president is hoping for?
I don't think that any American could be satisfied with where we are as a nation. There are still far too many people on the conservative right who are not vaccinated, and there are too many people who are African Americans and other pockets. So I think where we are now is we all recognize, and the president, I think, is providing just the right leadership, that we've got to have all hands on deck focus here, and we've got to be focused on specific targets. We've done with the blanket messaging. Now we have to go after very specific targets, and that's why I think this initiative that we are launching, and which the president has supported, called Shots at the Shop, which is really now engaging the combination of African American academics, medical societies, and the private sector. We're involving now the company Shea Moisture, which is putting in $1,000 for every salon that registers to be trained to be health advocates to talk about the facts about COVID vaccination, and then have them become sites where the vaccinations can actually occur, bringing all of this right to real life where real people gather. And so I think it is now time for the private sector to partner with physicians and academics to be able to work with things like barbershops and with faith congregations to now provide those kinds of incentives for them to be able to do what needs to be done to close out this last stage of the struggle. Let's keep in mind, there is a lot at stake for this nation if we don't get to the numbers that the president is trying to reach by July 4th.
Dr. Tuckson, I do want to ask you, because I first heard about this initiative, I'm going to admit it, on Instagram, on the Shade Room. And I decided to go back today and read through some of the comments just to do a bit of a temperature check on how folks are reacting to this news. And I have to say, it wasn't entirely positive. A lot of folks very skeptical of the fact that they're being pushed to get the coronavirus vaccine in a barbershop when the U.S. government still isn't providing insulin, for example, for free. That's a disease that we already know is overrepresented in the Black community. Curious to know how we can boost these vaccination rates without making systemic change in a healthcare system that has caused so much mistrust in the Black community. Do you think those two things really need to be done in tandem for these initiatives to be effective?
There is no question that two things come out of your point. Number one, that the organized anti-vaxxers are very good at what they are doing. They target every time we do any initiative, and I've been at this now for a year, unbroken. Every single time we talk about anything, whether it's masks or vaccines, these folks are out there organized to try to kill you off. There are just some very mean-spirited, immoral people out there in the world who are very well organized. So I'm not dismayed by that. But their larger point that is key here is that this distrust that people of color unfortunately have hard earned by their relationship to our society is vital. However, we don't have time to wait for that whole train to turn around. We have to keep fighting that fight. But in the interim, we're trying to save people's lives. There is so much at stake. And so what I would say to you is that while we need to get at those bigger issues, we need to focus right now on getting as many people vaccinated as possible so that we can protect these people. Think about these essential workers who are out there on the front lines, who have no idea whether people are walking around without masks, whether they are vaccinated or not, or whether they're carrying this virus. We are exposing thousands and thousands of our fundamental workers to risks that they cannot even calculate. If we can't get them vaccinated, I am terribly fearful, particularly with the variants that are spreading around the world and now into this country, that we're putting their lives at risk. I pray and hope that they don't get sick and they get vaccinated in time.
All right.
All right. I'm going to say shalom. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that told me this truth. Sincere peace, blessings, and salutations unto the hopeful elect. It's the brother Barzal from the GMS Arizona camp. Now, this news came out a few days ago. This article is dated Friday, June 4th. I didn't really get a chance to speak on it, and it popped back up while I was working today. And I'm like, I'm going to just say a few words because, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, according to the Bible, is going to use your own people against you. Those who you would call leaders are the ones that he's going to target because they are the people of influence. And they can be used. Why? Because they are greedy. They trust the so-called white man. They are in positions of power. They're covetous. And they're willing to sell out their own people for their own personal gain. And the world is filled with individuals like this man that you see in front of you. Like the organization that he represents and the people in the circles that he represents. And there's many more like him. There's even men that look like you that are in the Israelite community that are doing the exact same thing. Those who are led by these men are going to be destroyed, and these men, at the end of the day, are going to lose. Because first and foremost, they're trusting in their enemy. And Sirach 12:10 tells you to never trust your enemy. For like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness. And though he go crouching and humble himself, beware of him. And you have to always beware of the devil, because they always try to bring up the history that caused the hesitancy of our people, because our people have something in their spirit where they know they don't need to be dealing with this devil and what he's pushing. That's causing them to hesitate. And that's because of the history. That's because of all of the wrongdoing and all of the wickedness that the so-called white man has done unto our people. It's like, why now? Why do we trust this devil now? And our people come, join unto our enemy to convince you to trust in them. So now they're attacking every institution where the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans dwell, where they hang out, where they gather to try to push the so-called white man's agenda. And that's what you're witnessing with this whole shots at shops initiative. And it's a damn shame, man, for our people, to continue to run after these devils, man. This is Isaiah 13 and 15. It says, I'm going to just bring out a few precepts and close it out. Isaiah 13 and 15, it says, every one that is found shall be thrust through. Everyone that is found what? Is going to say it. It says, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. So everyone that is found dealing with this devil, communing with this devil, trusting in this devil, is going to fall by the sword. It says you're going to be thrust through. I mean, you're going to be destroyed. Because you better believe that, this dude mentioned that the antis will say that the anti-medicators are very good at what they do. No, they just telling the truth. And then you mentioned that people have to make informed decisions based on facts. Okay, so let's say that someone has digested all of the facts that you're able to present, and they still decide that they ain't with it. Then what? And ultimately, this is what it's going to come down to, because that's when the devil, which is Esau, Edom, is going to come down with that great wrath. That's when they're going to start using force. That's when they're going to stop asking. And they're going to start making people feel pain. They're going to start making people uncomfortable and make people have to make decisions that are highly impactful to their lives, take away their ability to live. And that's the steps that they're going to take in the coming days as all of these campaigns continue to fail. They're going to catch some of these ignorant ass jakes into their net with these stupid ass campaigns, man, but this shit ain't convincing. This shit ain't convincing, and if anyone is convinced by this, what does it say in Matthew? If anyone is convinced by this, then hey, that's on you. Matthews 15, verse 14. It says, let them alone. This is Yahushua speaking. It says, they be blind leaders of the blind, and that the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into a ditch. Okay? So if you jakes are led by these blind leaders who are trusting their enemy, that means you're blind too. And both of you at the end of the day are going to fall in the ditch. You're going to be destroyed. Because the Heavenly Father, he ain't dealing with this, man. This ain't the way. But that's how the devil moves. That's how he works. He's trying to package it as it being some way of helping you, of saving lives, of bringing forth safety, when ultimately it's going to do the exact opposite. Okay. And this is where this so-called black man in front of you fits in, and a lot of you other jakes, man, that's pushing this shit. Matthew 6 and 24. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve the Most High and Mammon. You can't serve God and money, who the Heavenly Father's name is Yahweh, and his only begotten Son's name is Yahushua. You can't serve two masters. These men that are in front of you, and all of these participants in this initiative that are going to accept that handout that they're going to receive in them beauty salons and these barbershops, and going to be pushing and trying to convince their people to go and run and do this, they chose mammon. They chose money over the Most High. Okay? So they're going to have blood on their hands. Heavenly Father is going to destroy them, man, for misleading the people. His chosen people, who is who he cares for, and that consists of you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. But these leaders have chosen mammon. They've chosen who they're going to serve. The elect of the Most High, they've chosen to serve the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, our true power of all the heavens and the earth. You know, so it's going to get uncomfortable for us because we're not going to run and do what Esau tell us to do. You know, so we're going to accept the persecutions that come along with that. But at the end, at the latter end, then we win. Because our Lord Yahweh Shai is coming back, Lord willing, we those men, to save us for trusting in him and believing in him and not believing in our enemy and trusting in our enemy. I'm going to close it out with this because this is where a lot of these so-called leaders, this is where they are and this is what they're doing. It says Sirach 19 and 22. It says the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. These people, you know, he got the glasses on. They think they so smart. They in charge of this coalition and this organization and all that. But what are they doing? They're using their power, their resources to destroy their own people. Okay? The knowledge of wisdom is not wicked. The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. Neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. All right? And what you're seeing before you is a council of sinners, man. That's a council of sinners. They're all meeting together and they're a think tank to try to strategize how to convince more of our people to consent to their agenda. Okay? That's what they're doing. This man don't truly know what's going to be the end result of this whole pandemic response. He don't know. You think he going to give a fuck, man, when this shit take a turn for the worse? Nope. He just going to care about those that are close to him, his family, his wife, his children. But he ain't going to give a shit about all of the Jake that he convinced and helped destroy. So that's something for Jake to think about, man. When you go into these shops, man, and they pushing, think about that. Okay? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. I'm going to say, call lawyer, how about Shem Yahweh Shai? Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace to the hopeful elect. Until next time, Shalom.